Hello, Victoria 3 fans. It's a cold day in Texas. It's snowing outside, so I'm going to be as warm as I can while I do this video here. But we have questions about military stockpiles. Now, in Victoria 2, it was very easy. You would go into your trade interface and say, stockpile this, 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 and this, and we get about up to 2,000 of that particular good. And should you ever need it, it would draw down on that. Okay. Well, Victoria 2 also didn't really have variable consumption of military goods in peacetime and war. Okay, talked about this with some interested parties on my Discord server, and we thought, well, what if we moved it up to 100% requirements for the inactive military, make it equal to 100% of what a full-time military would. But I feel that defeats the spirit of the game, where you can have an army, and yes, you don't need a lot of support for it. I mean, if you have a lot of conscripts, this thing works out pretty well, where you have hardly any expenditure during peacetime, and then if there's war, whammo, you get a lot of expenditure. But if you have large peacetime armies, which most people are going to have by the end of the game because they're going to pass or either mass conscription or professional army, and that gives you a lot of battalions. All right. Like my French army here has got 623 battalions and 373 conscripts. This is a big army here. If I made this 100%, then either I would have to reduce my army significantly or go conquer a lot more world and then not increase my army. I mean, it's too big for my country right now if I'm going to run it at 100% all the time. This would also mess up the AI, which would then have zero to no army at all, and we would just buy a small army, take the hit, and conquer the world. I don't know. We toying around with the numbers there looks like it would probably be bad for the AI. All right. But then there's another mod out there. It's Anbeeld's Stockpiling mod. And if we go to the game rules, here we go. Here we go. Anbeeld Stockpile Economy. That's the name of the mod. Okay. I added the mod to this game in the mid-game because I wanted to see what would happen. And it worked, as advertised. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're able to set these rules. If you add it in the middle of the game, you're going to get the default rules for the mod. So let's walk through them. When it says default price target for saving, minus 15%. So when the price target is at this level or lower, your stockpile will try to purchase that if it's set to purchase it. If it's set to spend or to give that out, then when the price is 10% higher than the target value or more, you will sell out of your stockpile. This is very important for your military goods, and that is, in fact, your default stockpile. If you turn this on in the middle of a game, your military goods are the ones that will be stockpiled. And the default stockpile action is to both buy and sell using those price targets. So in this event, let's say I'm playing France. I have a small colonial war. I activate 5 or 10 battalions. This is not a huge draw. It's not going to impact the price of these goods. I'll continue to stockpile, and maybe if they go up a little bit, I'll sell a little bit, but that'll be all. But if I have a large war, and I did go through a large war with I think Italy and Belgium, if you have that going and you activate a large force, yes, you're going to see what you have stockpiled come out of the stockpile and supply your military. Now, if it is a large short war, your stockpiles handle everything. You're fine. If it is a large, long war, the stockpiles will only last you about 12 months. That's what you can stockpile up, a 12-month supply. And it's pretty significant. We'll see what that looks like. But by having that 12-month supply, then if you think this war is going to go for a long time, some of those factories take 20 to 30 weeks to build, depending. You will want to get those factories built to supply those needs, so that as your stockpile is exhausted, your factories come online and they can provide that military support. This, I think, is a prerequisite for any Great War style scenario. And when they finally do put Great Wars into the game, you will want to have the stockpiling to go with it. All right, so it'll stockpile the military goods by default. Let's keep going here. Lots of settings. Goods stockpiled by AI countries. All military, most industrial. This I've taken, and I've noticed that there is a slight slowdown on the game, but it's really slight. Unless I'm actively watching a particular good that's being stockpiled. And then it just grinds slowly. So if I don't view that particular screen, then I can just watch it go elsewhere, and the calculations pretty much run in the background. It does slow it down slightly, but it'll slow it down tremendously if you're watching the trade screen as you unpause. Just get off the trade, get off the goods, and let it run. Stockpiling states for players. It says this will be divided among 85% of your states here. So what that means is if you have territory that's captured, the enemy may capture some percentage of your stockpile. So beware of that. And then the AI will pick 25% of its states. And I think it'll be like the larger ones that go with that there. Default stockpile capacity setting is 12 months. Okay. The stockpile limit factor, we go with 1x. So this will be, the stockpile capacity limit is 12 months. Okay. Priority saving share bonus is 50%. So prioritized states will get this bonus when calculating share of goods received in saving transfers. Capital states prioritized by default. States can be set to have priority for some goods only. It would be like if you really need a particular good to get to a particular state, you could do that. I'm not playing with these numbers. I'm looking at it just as a military stockpile in this particular area here. For countries that can stockpile at least a minor power, this, again, has the impact there because you have minor powers, major regional powers, great powers will all be stockpiling. Now, if you limit it to only the bigger players, then you don't have as much math that needs to be done to make the mod work, and therefore less of a hit on performance. And then, restrictions on setting price targets. You can toy with those, and now I'm into non-ASE rules. So, again, if you add this in the middle of the game, these are the defaults you get. If you're at the beginning of the game, it's 1836, and you have yet to hit start, you can toy with these settings. And I encourage you to play around with them. But let's look at just using the default settings for the middle of the game. I'll go ahead and return to game here. And if I go to my market, I've already got it set for military goods. And we can see here that my stockpile is full for my market on my small arms. Good job. And I'll go to look at my ammunition. Wow, we got 315K of ammunition there. As you can see, I cannot increase my stockpile capacity. I could decrease it by 3 months. That'll dip some of it out. And yes, we're saving and spending. So we'll pull in that stuff and then we'll sell it back when the market demands it. And it'll demand it in time of war. We could also have where it just saves it, and we can have it where we just spend it. So if we want to clear it out, we could do that. And this one here is the prohibition. So if by default, most of my goods were not going to be stockpiled, and by default, my military goods are save and spend. Now, if you look here, I've actually changed the target for ammunition here. If you hit the increase, it'll make it where that saving target now is like, if it normally it's below 15%, and I was having my ammunition around 10%, so I bumped it up to 5%, and then I started to buy more of it. Okay, and if I want it, now it's at minus 17, I could take it back down and say, when it's down to minus 15%. But if I really want to be able to make sure it's always topped up, I'll keep it at 5. I'll take that. Likewise for spending, wait until it's 20% higher. The default is 10% higher. I said, let's use those bullets when it's 20% higher. But I think having it at 10% now is fine because I've got my stockpile built out. It can operate as normal. And if I look at my artillery, we're all stocked up. I've let it run for a while without war. Again, by default, minus 15%, plus 10%. If you look, we're at 41% below market price. We have all these artillery factories, and they're just like not doing a lot because we're not having a lot of war. This is why I wish we had a production method that the AI was aware of that would actually toggle between wartime and peacetime. Wartime, you triple your demand, or you triple your output because you're basically tripling your inputs and your workforce requirement. And then peacetime, it's left at a very low level. So that way you could have these war material factories remain slightly profitable during the peacetime because they're doing peacetime demand. And when you have a general war, and as you're calling up all your conscripts into your armies, you're also putting people into your wartime factories and offering higher wages and things like that. So if there was an actual production method switch between wartime and peacetime, where wartime triples the shifts and triples everything, there you go. I think that would be a lot better for these particular industries because they're so sensitive. And if you have a corporation that's based on them, either the corporation is making loads of factories that are unprofitable, or it's very, very profitable and the number of factories is limited. And then when you have an actual war, because the ones you have are profitable in peacetime, they can't meet wartime demand. Now, this will help it though. This stockpile business does help because I've got 12 months supply of artillery. If I get into a big fight and it looks like it's going to stay big, I can handle that. Now, it's the same thing with ironclads. I've got plenty of that stuff too. And if we want to look at how other goods are collected and used during war, I've got a quick spreadsheet that I can show about that. Let me bring that up. All right, can everybody see this? Good. Oh, wait, some of it's behind my head. I'll scooch it over. There we go. Now you've got all the numbers you need. All right, this is a rough spreadsheet, notes that I made on the back of my envelope as I fought a war. This is with 624 battalions, and at one of the columns was where I got up to 162 conscripts before the war ended, and then the others where I got up to 256 conscript battalions before the war ended. So that shows the range that I have there when we look at the conscript entry. So if it's got a CCC, that's what the conscripts were demanding. If it's got SSS, that's what the ships were demanding, my Navy. We'll start off with ammunition. And this is peace production, peace demand, and war plus machine guns. All right. Once I switched over to machine guns, I didn't change the peace production. These were like 1894 is where I started it. And then I had some other wars in 1896 once I added machine guns as an automated method. Anyway, clearly having machine guns in a wartime means you're going to use a lot of ammunition. So that's a key there. And my conscripts were using about 1,600. Now, my conscripts were about 1/3 to 1/2 of my total army size, yet they are not using as much as 1/3 or 1/2 of the total ammunition. This may be because it needs to ramp up more. It could be that if I fight a longer war, it gets higher. I don't know for sure there, but I do know that as the war went on, my ammunition requirements were coming up slightly. It would be a big jump when I mobilized the forces and then a slight increase over time. My Navy, it stayed the same size, 313 ships. It fluctuated. There's no difference between war and peace, honestly. There's no difference. If we look at artillery, I had no conscript artillery battalions, so I had no usage of that. And obviously when you go to machine guns, the artillery doesn't care. But this was with siege artillery, was what I had there. Massive usage here. And it's still less than what we were producing in peacetime. So I've got these artillery factories. They're running at a very low rate of profit. And if I have a full-blown war, I don't have a shortage of artillery. I've got plenty of it. I should probably make more artillery so I could utilize that. Whereas for ammunition, I could have some more to meet my wartime demand. The thing is, during peace, it's about a third of my wartime demand. For ironclads, I'm making 1480, and I needed about 1090 to 1160. Again, negligible variation. So when you build your navies, you basically build them and maintain them at 100% of their power. When you build battalions, I believe the default is 60% of their demand during peacetime, and then they go to 100% in war. Well, yeah, I think that bears out here. For some reason, I have these members of my alliance group that still use man o' wars, and it drives me crazy. But small arms, I made 11,000. Peace demand was 3,700. With machine guns and full on everything, I needed 7,980 for my regular forces and 2,150 for my conscripts. Okay, that's a lot of small arms usage there. That's about 10,000. So again, I'm coming in under. Ammunition is the weirdest one. That's where you're either going to make a lot or make a little. Anyway. All right, and then how do we figure this out? What's the actual ratio? Well, like I said, I had 623, so 623 goes into 7,980, 10 times remainder 2, it's like 1.2. 1.3. I think it's about 1.2 small arms per unit with machine guns, and without machine guns it was about less than like 1.8 per unit. If I go over to my building here, and yeah, since I'm running with my regular screen, part of my Victoria 3 is going to be off on the edges. I do apologize that. No, I wanted to go here. There we go. Okay. Conscription Center. Here we go. Yeah. Whoops. That's just that. I want to go to barracks. Here we go. Okay. So barracks says during peacetime with my 623 units, I've got 143 ammunition, 180 small arms, 22 artillery, and 5 radios. And then that's supposed to go up, not quite double that, but yeah, no, that's not right there. Is that per? I'm wondering if that's per unit, because that's not it either. I don't know. That just doesn't seem right, because I'm using way more than that. If I go over to my actual market and look at ammunition, I can see I'm using right now 4.36K ammunition for my barracks. Okay, let's go back to the spreadsheet over here. And that's actually higher than what I had here without machine guns. So, yeah, there we are. 623 battalions, 4,306. So that's about 4 to 6 ratio, or every unit uses, or every battalion has got you take the total number of battalions, multiply it by 2/3, and then multiply that by 10, and that'll be how many units of ammunition you need. I'm doing the math in my head right now, so I have not got an equation written out for that. Anyway, you can check this yourself. All you have to do is just go to that particular good. This is ammunition. You can barely see it up here at the top, but trust me, it's ammunition. And look at where it says barracks. And that's what your barracks demand is. Look at naval bases. That's what the naval bases demand. Stockpile shows how much I'm buying into my stockpile right now. And conscripts would show as conscripts. And I have no conscripts right now, so I have they're not here. All right. If I look at groceries, let me take a look at all of my mobilization methods. And there's grocery, and I've got all the supplements. I've got the machine guns. I've switched over to opium and tools. I own chunks of places that produce opium, so I'm good to go with that. We're using rail transport. I've just started building cars, so I could get reconnaissance. I could get to truck transport. And I can talk about that in just a little bit because it's going to have the same amounts that the engines have here. And over here it wants 0.5 oil input and 1.0 automobile input. Okay, so that 0.5 unit per, or the 0.5 engines per unit, whatever, comes out to this. If I look at the engine number of 575, that's the number that it's going to be for all of my units, for all the other things there. That's the multiplier there. So if I have need for 575 here, you see I have need for 575 liquor, 575 tobacco. Okay. Now during peacetime, it was 167 tobacco, 178 liquor, 39.4 engines. What? Well, once I got going, then they get turned on. Ah, that's the difference there. Because, yeah, when you're mobilized, that's when the transportation method comes in. So, but anyway, you could take that 575 number for 600. I mean, just go ahead and just round it all down. I've got around 600 battalions. I need around 600 tobacco, around 600 liquor. I need about 1,200 sugars, so I need 2 sugars per unit. I need 1 tobacco per unit. I need 1 liquor per unit. I need, 4 opiums per unit because of my my little tent there, because that uses 2 opium input, and that's 4 times the 0.5 engine number there. So, yeah, I need about 2,400 opiums. And I mean, this is approximate. This is approximate. For tools, because of the medical unit there, that's about double. So I need 4 opiums and 2 tools per unit. I need 1 engine per unit. And then if I go to oil, that'll be, that's for the reconnaissance. Or sorry, oil is, is going to be under flamethrowers. So if I add flamethrowers, I need double the engine there, so I would need about another 1,000 oil input during war for my 600 unit army, or 1,200, we'll say. If I activate chemical weapons, I need 2 fertilizer inputs. That'd be 4 per, roughly what my opium demand will be. That's what I'll need for fertilizer if I go to chemical warfare. If I go to, my machine gun ammo, that added +1 ammunition and +1 small arms. So I could actually fill these out by saying my ammunition demand from the machine guns should be around 1,200 of ammunition and small arms. So if I go back up here and take a look, ammunition went up a lot. Small arms went up by 2,300. And that went up by about 2,300 each. Okay. So I actually went up by 4 on each of the 4 units per rather than 2. But anyway, machine guns are going to add a lot more demand on those. Don't worry about your artillery. And if you get airplanes, you're going to need more airplanes, but same on the oil there. The reconnaissance, you have the same amount of oil that you need for airplanes, but it looks like I would need about 1,200 automobiles if I turn this method on. So if I turn on automobiles here, I need 1,200. If I turn on automobiles here, I need another 600. So I have both truck transport and the motorized reconnaissance. I would need 1,800 automobiles in total for my 600 battalion army, roughly there. And yeah, for these supplements, it's really small there. Sugar is the double one, and then tobacco and liquor are half that size, and opium again is another half there. So, or actually, this opium number is actually 2.5, so that includes a little bit more. All right, so now I got to revise all my numbers, but I still think if I figure it out like here, if I have a little bit extra, I'll be fine. So yeah. Basically, if it says 0.5 of a unit, think of that as 1 unit per battalion in time of war. And if it says 1.0, then think of that as 2 units. And if it says 2.0, think of that as 4. And if you have capacity to handle that, you'll be fine. If it's 2.5, think of it as 5 per unit. And that actually gets me just over what I need for my regular units. Then when I have my conscripts come in, that's going to be another demand there. And if I have a very large conscript army, I was playing with that in my Russia game, I found that could be horrendously ruinous. It's massive in the field, but if I've got 8, 9, I get 1,200, 1,300 battalions of conscripts showing up, that is a massive drain on everything. And so I would probably want to have a big stockpile of oil, sugar, tobacco, liquor, opium, and tools. You have those stockpiles built up for those goods, and then when you start a war, your mobilization methods are not impacted, and you may not have to have that massive production to begin with. But it'll last you for 12 months. After that, you've got to make some choices. Obviously, for radios, I only have a small number of artillery units. Let me take a look at those. Does it show me the total number? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, I know I've got 40, 80, 120, 150, 180, 184, 190. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I have 190 artilleries, and that would mean they're using in peacetime 300 radios, in wartime 600. So roughly 1.5 radios per artillery in peacetime, and 3 radios, or no, wait, yeah, I said 190, yeah, and then 3 radios per artillery in wartime. Now, even though it says +1 radio input, I'm using more than that. And if I look at my trench infantry, yeah, they're high on the ammunition, high on the small arms. Those are going off the side there. So but if I go up and take a look at the heavy tanks, well, that means we're going to have to we still have the radios, but now we add tank input, artillery, ammunition, and oil is much higher. And I have issues with being able to go directly to that. There were some sacrifices made so that way this could be played adequately in a console environment that I'm not happy with, but I understand, and my console playing brothers and sisters out there, solidarity, grudgingly, but solidarity. But yeah, when I go to squad infantry, that's where I'm going to have a really big draw on my radios, because now, just like I said, I had about 200 of my units were artillery. I've got about 400 that are infantry. And yeah, that's going to be a big draw on the radio there. So really, so that's good to note there. Because like 2/3 of my units are infantry and 1/3 is artillery. That's where I get my numbers in there. So if I go back to that spreadsheet, now some of these are starting to make a little bit more sense here, but okay, well, still, for these other methods, it's just going to be for all units straight across the board. But for my ammunition consumption and small arm consumption, that's based on my roughly 400 infantry. And you can see that they're close to 8,000 each, just give or take. But yes, so that'll be that there. So anyway, that's how much you need, roughly. Just, you could eyeball it and try to get the right number there. Every 0.5, consider that as 1 unit of production per battalion of that category, give or take. And things like mobilization methods and the morale boosting rations you can have, groceries as well, all of those are going to apply across the board. The ones that are specific to a unit, such as based on type, for trench infantry or skirmish infantry or siege artillery or shrapnel artillery, those are going to be controlled from the actual boards there. All right, I'm going to come back and wrap up now on the stockpiling. Okay, now we're back to the normal Victoria 3 view. I'm not looking at my spreadsheet anymore. Some goods that I did decide to stockpile just to see what would happen. Paper. I said, let's go ahead and stockpile paper. What the heck? And I'm right now. Okay, right now I'm right at minus 10%, and I'm at 10% of base price. So are we still stockpiling? If I back it up, the answer is yes, we're buying because we're right at that. Now, if it goes down to minus 9%, we stop buying. If I go look at tools, I said, hey, let's buy some tools. They're at minus 16%. My target was minus 15%. We're actually buying a lot of tools every turn. And if we look under, Stockpile is purchasing 27.1K tools per turn. And that just gives an idea about how much ridiculous amount of tools I'm making, because you can still see I'm plus 28K here. Gosh. I've got some other things that I want to do for controlling that. But anyway, I'll just say this. We experimented did a little thought experiment, like, okay, so what if we made tools less profitable? Then they wouldn't make as many tools. And then the response was, well, what's your second most profitable good? They're going to make that instead. Oh, everything moves up. So you gotta, okay, what if we make nothing profitable? Then that's not realistic. It's nuts what happens here. But anyway, but yeah, I can change these things and play with them there. So yeah, I should probably, if I look under my luxury items, these are things that include for example, opium. And remember how we needed to have opium? What if I did this? Are we going to buy more? Well, the spending target is plus 10%, and the price is at plus 4%. So no, or the saving target is minus 15%. We're not there. We need to actually. Oh, I can't get it. I can't get it to where if the price is high, if the price is higher in my market than the base price, I can't buy any of it. So I could put it here and try to make more opium and get it to where it's just 1% below, and then we'll start stockpiling this stuff. But until then, we are going to be caught shorthanded in a war. That's why when you look at that medical method there, there's the less effective one uses bandages and liquor, or cloth and liquor. Then the better one uses tools and opium. You best have some opium if you want to stockpile it and get ready for that thing. So, yeah. And right now, I'm not using any of it because I haven't mobilized my forces. That's the other thing. If your forces are not mobilized, the only thing that they're going to use while not mobilized is ammunition, artillery, just the basic goods there. The mobilization methods, the morale boosting things, the traffic and all that other stuff, that doesn't activate until the unit is mobilized. So when I turn on mobilizing, that's when I'm going to see a draw on opium here for those units. But what about some of the other ones? We had sugar was one there. That might be under. Oops. No, that's but fertilizer is one. If I want to go into flamethrowers, maybe I should stock up on my fertilizer now. Now it shows me what a market stockpile looks like, and that would be for what's in my entire market. If it shows what's in my nation stockpile or country stockpile, that's what I've got personally in my country there. And once one of these is, I think one or the other fills up, or once a market stockpile fills up, then that's it. You don't buy any more. So for my military goods, we've maxed out here. We're not buying any more, even though they're really cheap. Our market stockpile is fine, so we don't buy any more for that. And when we go into war, I actually started a war, and I saw dips in my ammunition, because I didn't have as you saw from that spreadsheet, I don't have enough ammunition to supply my units, so it started to draw down on that. There we go. Just to show you the difference in speed, I have the OCD thing there. Let me go ahead and let it go here. December 5th, December 6th, December 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. You hear how fast that's going. Now let's turn on the market and let's watch a good that we're buying. Paper. Unpause. December 13th, December 14th, December 15th, December 16th. Turn it off. 18, 19. This is on speed 5. 20, 21. You can see the difference there. So again, if you're going to be running that, I recommend strongly that you either pause the game or understand that if you're going to sit there and stare at your stockpile filling up, it's going to take a little bit longer. And even with this screen here, it's starting to slow down. And when I click on the guy here, grindingly slow. What if I do one that it's not being stockpiled? Like I'm not stockpiling groceries. Unpause. 18, 19. It's still pretty slow. Not quite as slow as the other one was, but oh no, I am stockpiling groceries. Nah, never mind. Let's go to wheat. I'm not stockpiling wheat at all. 25, 26, 27, 28. There we go. Okay. So if I'm not stockpiling a good and I'm not watching the prices change in real time, then it doesn't have to calculate that kind of stuff to get me a stockpile number. But if I'm watching something that's being stockpiled here in the trade view or market view, it's going to slow the game down considerably, as we saw there. But this does help out. I've tested it in time of war. I used ammunition that I had stockpiled. I felt great about that. It was a short war and a pretty one. Like I said, I was fighting Belgium, and as you can see, they're not there anymore, so I don't have to do that again. If it was a larger war against like Russia or Britain, or if you're much bigger power where I'm having a much more desperate demand on my forces, then I'm running the stockpile down while I'm also trying to build out my factories. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope you enjoy it, that you like, comment, and subscribe, and see me on Discord. And we'll have some more chats about this kind of stuff there. Just don't bring any of that right-wing nonsense about the we don't want that there. But if you have regular nonsense, we're up for it. So anyway, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.